we all work together collaboratively to end sexual violence that we see in our communities. Collaboration is key. One of the biggest people that we work with and one of our closest allies in this fight is the Solicitor's Office, and so we're glad to be able to call them our partner, to work with them on a day-to-day basis. And on behalf of the Solicitor's Office, I want to invite up our solicitor, Solicitor Duffie Stone of the 14th Judicial Circuit, to come up and share some words with the community.
Thank you. I want to thank, first of all, I want to thank Hopeful Horizons. I think it was interesting that last year I think I made the statement that it seems like I've done this, spoken on behalf of Hopeful Horizons and at this particular event about 8 years. And as I'm talking to Kristen a few minutes ago, I realized it's actually been 13 years. So I thank you guys for having this event. This is a tremendous event, but the work that you do is something that makes not only my job better, a lot easier, but it makes this community better. And I really want to say thank you to Hopeful Horizons and all of the things that you do as one of our main partners. My job in this particular event over the last however many years I've been doing it is to give you a little bit of the idea of the history of this event. It is one of my favorite events that I go to and attend annually, and I like it because it's a celebration. It is something that started in 1975 in Philadelphia. And when it started in Philadelphia, it was as a result of a murder that took place of a young microbiologist who was murdered a few short steps from her house. After this murder, what happened caused the sort of a rebellion. And that rebellion is created the Take Back the Nights, which are now being held literally throughout this world. In about 30 different countries, every state in the country, universities, churches, all types of locations. When Susan Smith was murdered in 1975 in Philadelphia, the reaction from the community, the reaction from the government was to tell women to stay inside their homes at night. The concept was, instead of talking about taking away the freedom of the person that hurt Susan Smith, the concept was that women should stay inside at night. And what happened is the community said, no, that's not what we're going to do. We're not going to surrender our streets to the criminals. We're not going to surrender our night to the criminals. This is our home. And if you think about freedom, if you think about the definition of freedom, freedom is being able to do what you want to do, act how you want to act, speak what you want to speak, as long as you don't hurt anybody else, but without hindrance or without a restriction. And what happened in 1975 is that people basically put women on a curfew. And they said, you shouldn't go out at night because it's not safe. And that sparked a rebellion for the freedom of movement, to be able to go out and do whatever you want to do. And if you think about that concept, this is sort of an Independence Day for survivors. It's a day in which survivors can be empowered and emboldened to say, I am going to go where I want to go when I want to go there. I'm not going to stay at home and be afraid. I'm not going to stay off the streets at night. I'm going to do what I want to do and when I want to do it. Now, from the standpoint of a solicitor and somebody that prosecutes sexual assault cases, domestic violence cases, and has been doing it for as long as I have, I will tell you that as a system, we need to take a little bit different approach than what we have taken in the past. A few years ago, in fact several years ago, I met with a friend of mine who was a district attorney in Salt Lake City, Utah. His name is Sim Gill, and he had been a district attorney for quite a while, and he showed me this center that he had in Salt Lake City. The center was called a Family Justice Center. I'd never heard of one of those before. But at this Family Justice Center, he had not only his prosecution unit, the team that prosecuted sexual assault and domestic violence cases and child abuse cases, but he also had crime victim services. He had every service you could imagine. He had counseling. He had home care. He had people that could help with civil situations in family court, like restraining orders and things like this. Every victim service that you can imagine was in this center. And as he showed it around to me, he said, you know, as prosecutors, we always think about convictions and we always think about punishment. You know, there's another thing that we really need to spend a lot of time thinking about, and that's how many victims have we helped? How many victims have we helped out of the cycle of domestic violence? How many of them have we helped move on from a sexual assault or a child abuse? And after that, I came back and we started thinking about that and working with it. Last year at this time, I came and I told everyone here that these family justice centers, there's about 100 in the country, but there are none in South Carolina. And I promised the crowd last year that by the time I came back up here, that we would have one not only in South Carolina, but in Beaufort County. We already had a special victim unit. We already had a team of prosecutors in place. We already had a building. But what we needed were the victim services. We needed the victim services that are provided by Hopeful Horizons. We needed those victim services that are provided by legal aid that helps in civil court as well as criminal. We needed the victim services that are provided by CAPA and some of these other organizations of outreach and things like that. And in January of this year, all of those people were able to move into the center. Now we're in a situation and when we meet crime victims in our office, we're literally able to walk them down the hall and introduce them to somebody at Hopeful Horizons. We're able to introduce them to somebody that can help them with emergency services, whether that's home, work, child care, counseling, what have you. Since January of this year, the center opened up, our partners moved in, and 221 victims have already been served since January alone. And that's something that I must thank Hopeful Horizons, Lowcountry Legal Aid, CAPA, the Lowcountry Coalition for a Healthy Youth, and all of those partners that came in to make that a reality. Because I think now I can go back to Sim Gill and I can say, let me tell you exactly how many victims we've helped. But there's a downside to it. Of those 221, 39 were children. I also told this group last year another reality of our 14th Circuit, which is if you're sexually assaulted as a child anywhere in this circuit, you're driven to Charleston for a forensic exam. This time about 6 months ago, we were able to get a federal grant. Heather Dollar is with my office. She's over here now. She is a pediatric sexual assault nurse examiner, and she's starting a program in this same center to now be able to, with Hopeful Horizons and their forensic interviews, children are not going to have to drive all the way to Charleston to get their services. They can come to Okatee, South Carolina. And that doesn't mean if this child was sexually assaulted in Beaufort or in Hampton or in Allendale or Colleton or anywhere else. All of these services will be completed within a series of months. This is how I think we have to go forward. And all of that comes back to the reason that we're here tonight. We're here tonight to celebrate the empowerment of survivors, giving them a voice, letting them speak, and letting them know that it's okay for them to go out whenever they want to, that they will not be judged. And the ability to give them those services to help them move on and help them get closure is something that I'm very appreciative of Hopeful Horizons for giving us the support to do and the ability for us to do it. But tonight, as you hear from these victims, think of it in this term. This is a celebration. It is a celebration of a rebellion that says, this is our night, these are our streets, and we will live on them how we please, and we will not let the bad elements of our society take that away from us. Thank you so much for being here tonight, and I look forward to hearing from the speakers that we have coming up. And the next one, I believe, is my buddy Dude from the BACAs. This is my security detail. If anybody doesn't like me, they'll have to go through this guy with the bike behind me. These guys also do a tremendous job. We've also invited them, by the way, to come into the center. They said they don't need a desk, they just need a parking space. So we'll get that for you. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.